Hey everyone, welcome and thanks for joining me today. I'm going to go over a little story with you. This is an experience that happened to me recently, and I thought it would be good to get it out there in the world so that anyone else who has to go through this experience can kind of see what happens and how to deal with it. Um, so here we go. Your boss approaches you one day and says, "Our landlord just let us know he's not renewing our lease. We have 60 days to find a new space and move." This can feel like a death blow, especially as an employee with seemingly no control over the situation. How do you move 12 years worth of accumulated stuff? Do we really need it all? What can we upgrade and what efficiencies can we create? This presentation will be a guide to planning, teardown, moving, and rebuilding a brewery when you're forced to move from a brewer's perspective. It will include the different phases and thought processes behind each step, working with your brewery owners to make the best of a bad situation. I haven't done a presentation like this since high school, so bear with me. I'm going to try to get through it as smoothly as I can, and I'll come back at the end for any questions or comments you guys leave. Here's a quick overview of what we'll cover during the session, a little personal intro and background on our brewery, then making a plan, deciding your layout, what we can change, considerations for your build out. Do we really need all this stuff? And what's really important? A little bit about me. My name is Jacob Mitchell. I'm the head brewer at Craft Brewing Company, now located in Riverside, California. I started with the company in June of 2018 and took over as head brewer in January of 2019. Before that, I had been home brewing since about 2012 and worked as a retail manager for big box retail companies such as Kohl's, Petco, and CVS pharmacies. This is the only brewery job I've had, so going through this experience taught me a ton of invaluable things I probably wouldn't have learned otherwise. It also made me intimately familiar with all of our equipment, not just how to run it, but how it works inside and out, and how to fix it when it breaks. A little bit about the brewery I work for. Kirk Medeiros and three other partners opened the brewery and tasting room in 2009 in Lake Elsinore, California. We are the longest operating brewery with a tasting room in the Temecula Valley and just celebrated our 13-year anniversary in March. In 2017, the final partner left, and Kirk took over the brewery with his two sons, Nick and Kirk Robert. In 2018, they opened a second tasting room in Temecula, California. After weathering the pandemic and finally starting to get back on track, our then landlord told us in August of 2021 that he would not be renewing our lease and that we had to move everything out by the end of October. Knowing that wasn't possible, considering we had hardly even looked at locations, Kirk managed to negotiate us extending the current lease through the end of the year. Despite our best efforts, we were still not able to secure a production facility within the city of Lake Elsinore. However, we were able to secure a restaurant location, and through another brewery contact, we secured a production site in Riverside, California, about 25 minutes north. Even though we tried our best to meet our December deadline, complications with the previous tenant at our new production space made it so that we were not able to move in until February of 2022. The new restaurant location was finished and officially opened in March of 2022, but we did end up closing our Temecula location in October of that year due to low sales and not having the capacity to devote the focus it needed. The production facility is still a work in progress, although we are operating at a limited capacity. City permitting is fun stuff. This is a great quote from Charles Darwin that really sums up this experience for me. It is not the strongest or most intelligent who will survive, but those who can best manage change. Even the best laid plans can go to waste. During the pandemic, we had remodeled our brewery taproom, set up a shaded outdoor patio, and updated our branding to position ourselves out of the gate when everything reopened. 2021 was slowly building momentum towards pre-pandemic levels, and it was looking like we were going to have a great second half into 2023. Then we got the news. After finding out we were going to have to move, I wandered through our space, looking at all the collective stuff we had, and just wondered how the hell we were going to get it all out there. Our first task was to set up a couple of planning meetings to decide what the priorities were, when we needed to accomplish them, and how to best go about it. Not having a production space at that time made it difficult, but I was tasked with making a list of priorities based on the goals we set out. Those goals included getting everything moved out on time, not running out of beer, communicating clearly to our customers what was happening. I was tasked with creating a timeline of when to pack up and move what, planning the teardown of moving of all the equipment, and planning a brew schedule to make sure we had enough of our core beer to float a few months of downtime. It was a daunting task for sure, but over the course of a few meetings, we got all the details nailed down. My biggest takeaways from this part of the project were to make sure that you brew enough beer to last a few months as you try to get your new location built out. Don't forget to leave time to empty and clean all your tanks before you have to move them. You don't want to have to move dirty or full tanks that you're not sure when you'll have hooked up and usable again. Also, set up contingencies to have someone contract brew a couple of your brands when, inevitably, delays occur. We were lucky to have another brewery close by, shout out to Evans Brewing in Corona, that had extra capacity and could fit us into their brew schedule a few times. This is the best part of it all. You can finally set up your brewery the way you always dreamed of. Sort of. While yes, you do get to do things mostly how you want, there are always constraints to consider, namely money and time. When I started planning, I made a list of things I liked about our current location and the things I didn't really like. I focused on the didn't likes first and made sure the new layout helped relieve some of those pain points I had. I wanted to set it up as efficiently as possible while reusing as much of the piping and process equipment from our previous location as we could. The location of our air compressor and CO2 tanks is based on how much copper piping we had been able to save from our previous location. We installed new piping for water and glycol. A lot of our electrical was based on reusing the wiring and conduit we were able to save as well. We pulled pretty much everything out of the old location that we could. We still had to run quite a bit of new wire throughout, but we were able to save a bunch of money reusing what we could. Our mill was placed in a location that allowed us to reuse our auger mostly in the configuration it was in previously. We just had to shorten it up a bit. The previous location had it going through a wall, and we don't have that constraint here. We were able to put our cold box condenser and glycol chiller on the roof to save space, but unfortunately our boiler was too heavy to place up there without significant structural improvements, so we had to design our space around having that in the brewery area. Our previous location had the tasting room in the middle of the brewery, the brew house on one side and the fermenters on the other, whereas our new location, they are separated completely. There's nothing really unique about our new setup, except that we get to have a traditional setup now, which makes working and production scheduling a lot easier. This was a great opportunity to talk with the owners about the things that really worked and didn't work at our brewery. Being open and honest with why you feel a certain process works or doesn't work will make a big difference in how receptive they are to changing things when setting up your new space, especially if it's going to cost them additional money. Unless your company is flush with cash, saying you need a centrifuge because your plate and frame filter is a pain in the ass probably won't cut it. But advocating for soft lines on your glycol drops and extra shutoff valves to be able to swap out tanks with larger ones down the line probably will. While I would have liked to have gotten all the bells and whistles to really make production run fast and smooth, I understood that money is tight in any endeavor on this scale, especially one that was unexpected. Instead of asking for everything, I settled for rearranging the things I could and recommending upgrades that would provide the most impact on overall operations for the long term. For us, replacing our old cold box that you couldn't drive a forklift into with a larger one that you could made sense because it increased our capacity for growth, which was a major pain point at our old location. There was more than one occasion where we had to keep beer in tanks for an extended amount of time because we were out of room in our cold storage. We also had an additional fermenter added in and set up our glycol run with a capped end to allow for even more tanks down the line when we were ready for them. We got rid of our pilot brew house, a 1.5 barrel glorified homebrew system, and upgraded our pilot fermenter from 3 barrels to 9 so that we could brew into it from our 20 barrel brew house, saving time and allowing for greater repeatability when scaling up. We also took the opportunity to replace our aging glycol chiller to ensure longevity in operation. Here's some considerations for your build out. Place equipment in locations that make it easy for maintenance access. Don't put your mill right up against the wall when the motor access door is on that side. And make sure the support bars for your pallet racking aren't blocking the maintenance door for your air compressor. It makes it tough to get into. Leave room for expansion. Even if you're comfortable with where you are right now in production, there may come a day when you think, man, I really wish I had just one or two more tanks to smooth out my production flow. Even if you're in a smaller space, you can usually leave room to squeeze in a couple more tanks somewhere, so set up your plumbing and glycol accordingly. Plan your paths of travel. Don't forget to leave space to pull pallets in and out of your cellar. Get cans and supplies to your canning line, and have room to clean around all your equipment. Don't forget to include space to store everything. There's nothing worse than getting in keg collars or can lids, or even new kegs, and not having a place to put them. Evaluate all your miscellaneous stuff as you're packing it up, and make sure you've set up a place to put it that's not just a bin you'll grumble about digging through day after day. When it's time to start finally packing up all 12 years worth of stuff and getting it over to your new location, it helps to try and cut some of the fat. Do we really need all this stuff? Probably not. The problem is most of the stuff's not yours, and your owners will probably not be big fans of you just throwing all their belongings away. As you go through the bins and boxes and shelves full of everything you can think of, it helps to sort into a few main categories. I like to make mine stuff I definitely need, stuff that's sentimental, stuff that I don't know what it is but it looks important, and definite trash. The stuff you know you need but aren't using during your last few weeks of production can be boxed up right away and set aside to move. Bring the owner in to go through your sentimental and WTF is that piles to decide which gets moved into the need pile and which gets moved into the trash pile. Don't be afraid to encourage throwing stuff away. Then, take the definite trash pile and go put it in the dumpster before anyone can change their mind. Some people just like to hold on to everything. Finally, keep the spare nuts, bolts, and gaskets. You're going to need them. While this process is a lot of hard work and seems impossible at times, these important points were the keystones in making it out alive and successful. Communication. Open and honest communication with all involved parties will keep anyone from getting too stressed out and keep things moving in the right direction. Organization. Assigning clear tasks and roles to everyone and using your communication to make sure everyone is keeping to the set timeline really makes things run smoothly and helps you get things done when you need them done. Staying calm. Especially as you get close to the actual move date, it is easy to get overwhelmed and lose your cool. Keeping these other points in mind will help you stay calm and know that things are going according to plan, or that there is a plan in place for when it doesn't, because we all know things happen. Detailed planning. The more you can put into your plan, the easier it will be to execute. And be open to changing on the fly. Even the best laid plans will get derailed by sick truck drivers, tenants that won't vacate a building, construction delays, permitting issues, and a whole host of other unforeseen circumstances. As long as you've got a plan, you can adjust it to compensate for most issues. And when you can't, most of the people affected will be understanding and compassionate to your situation, as long as you keep the open and honest communication going and can show people that you are organized and have a plan. So that's pretty much it for the presentation that I have. While I would have been fine working at our old location forever, I'm happy to have been through this experience and I'm now able to share it with others as well. I learned so much, from brewery planning to electrical wiring, plumbing, soldering copper pipe, setting up an auger, and more. I couldn't be happier with how it's all turning out. We still have a ways to go, even a year later, thanks to the City of Riverside permitting process. But overall, it's been worth the hardship. thank you all for hanging out with me this afternoon.